There is already an established a relationship, and that is when it is exploited, that is where we have a problem. I understand why it is not easy for people to, volunteer to easily come out and say, I have a problem here. Let me just paint a worst case scenario. I am married. If I become abusive, already I'm the breadwinner. So my victims, they depend on me at a certain level. So if they move out, the first question, where will I sleep after having gone to the police station? What will I eat? Who will provide for my school transport? You understand? Then you think of that. Then it's easy to them to protect the perpetrator and perpetuate abuse unaware.
So let's take that same example and apply it to the school environment. Why would victims of abuse not feel comfortable to speak out against their perpetrators?
All right. I think I was covered. One of the learners tried to assist us. I even took notes. We are going to apply that in our intervention strategy, because the environment is just designed for schooling. There is no social worker that is readily available to listen, because a teacher has a class. Other people are attending. So the environment, you just it becomes impossible for you to quickly respond. The police station is 20 kilometers down the line. So you don't have a phone number of the police station. You can't go to a teacher, yet you are not ready for that, because the environment is for schooling. So I think now that we are here, we need to develop a proactive strategy rather than being reactive, to say, okay, now that we know that these issues prevail in our schooling environments, in our households, proactively, what do we put in place so that in the event, then we know where to go and it is easy to get there?
Sis Buiswa, it sounds like a multi-pronged intervention that is needed. And perhaps that's why it's so important to have institutions, organizations, and people like yourselves from the GIZ to come into the school environment and say, there is a problem. We are going to work with the existing structures, like the Department of Basic Education and the SAPS, to bring about the much needed solutions. In your view, how big a problem is this for the GIZ to say, no, we have to allocate funds, we have to allocate resources towards gender-based violence in schools in particular?
Thank you for the question. I think as South Africa, we are very much aware of the statistics in terms of the magnitude of gender-based violence in our country. And I think also if we heard from the opening remarks from the director, Liko Botoman, around how the schools are a microcosm of the society we live in, that what plays out in schools in terms of the gender-based violence is actually representative of what is happening in our homes. And therefore, I think as the development sector or development partners that are partnering with civil society organizations and the government in addressing this scourge is moving from the point of view of what can we do, first of all, to prevent gender-based violence. I think the schools are a fertile ground because we are working with young minds. There is a saying, we cannot teach old dogs new tricks. But with young people, we are working with developing minds, that if we are changing the harmful norms that they are growing up with from their homes in the schools through the life orientation curriculum, through the extracurricular programs that we are supporting as the development partners with the government, then we are starting a journey of changing the next generation so that we do not sit with the complex problem where the victim of gender-based violence, when there are efforts to try to support them to come out of that situation, they are not as successful as the educator has just mentioned. So the problem is complex, and the problem needs partnerships in order to address it. But for me, I want to emphasize the importance of prevention, that we need to start making sure that our learners in schools, they get the right information and the knowledge, and they are taught the right knowledge and skills and values, that it starts with them, the change starts with them. What is happening at home, they do not necessarily have to repeat it in their own lives. They can make a difference. Hence, the Asifuni GBV in our schools that as GIZ we are supporting through our partnership with Agape Youth Movement.
Before we get to you, Captain Kwela, do we have some sort of understanding or indication of how big of a problem it is in our schools? I'm trying to sort of gauge whether there would be statistics that reflect the true picture of what's happening in our schools. There's a bee that is messing with us. If one of us screams, please bear with us. They would have been stung by a bee.
Yeah, no, nationally we do have a problem, a serious problem when it comes to GBV, especially in the schooling environments. We do have a problem. Statistics are there, and they are alarming. We need intervention like yesterday. As we speak, our office is already working on an intervention strategy. We are trying to maximize all the resources that are there, because statistically speaking, we are not safe. Our children are not safe. Issues are there. I'm talking about reported cases. I don't want to say anything about unreported cases, cases that, are put under the carpet, where people negotiate. You see, we don't have those statistics, but those reported cases, the numbers are alarming. I think we need to up our game. But maybe.
And what do those numbers tell you? Is it learner to teacher, teacher to learner, learner to learner? What is the information telling you? Because I think we need to have an understanding of the nature of the program. It's one thing to sing hashtag Asifuni, but not understanding what's the problem, what's really happening. What are the stats telling you?
Yeah, what is prevalent in the schooling environments, cases that we are dealing with, it manifests itself mainly as bullying. Bullying is the primary issue that we are dealing with. So obviously it's learner to learner, and it cuts across gender. It can be a male bullying a female, or vice versa. So that is number one. Then number two, there was a mention of the fact that relationships are now do exist now, especially in the high schools. So as a result of the relationship, people fight over a girl, they fight over a boy, or they fight among themselves. That also is showing its ugly head. Then vagrants from people from outside the schooling environments now, targeting those that are going to school. In rural areas, it's where there's an issue between a few students in the school, and then they begin to report the matter to their elderly people, their brothers or their friends outside of the school. Then they develop interest, they want to address it. So now it moves from the school to outside of the school, and from outside of the school to the village, and in no time it becomes a community issue, and we end up having people being killed. Yet it just started as a smaller issue in school, and it was not dealt with accordingly. So maybe I would advise that let us deal with structures that are there. What is expected in terms of the structure? It's structures that should be in place in the school, so that when they intervene, they also come and check if those structures are there, because failure to establish structures in as far as the government is concerned, and it is also a disservice to this problem. Thanks.
Do you wanna add to that?
Yes, very likely. I just want to backtrack a little bit to what are some of the reasons for why this violence or bullying occurs in schools, right? And you mentioned a very powerful example of if you're the breadwinner, it's not easy for the victim to now report it because they could mean losing their source of support and housing and just further on that. And the way we implement it on a school level is that social media and our reputation is our currency, right? It's not necessarily that it's a relationship caused, but if someone can blackmail you with information and can post it to social media, then that is the main reason why students are a bit afraid to expose themselves. Because if they are found out that they were the people who reported this, for us, although it might seem small to the adults in the room, for us, especially in high school, these things last forever, right? Reputation, social media, it can never go away. So we want to keep ourselves safe, and one repercussion of that is to keep all the perpetrators safe from reporting us.
Sure, I think what you're saying is very powerful, because I remember just taking it back to my school days, which is not so long ago, by the way. But it almost felt like we were in a world, like in this world, right, where, you know, the adults are far away, help is far away, and it's this like weird community that we're living in. And like you say, any little nyana mistake and you are banned for life. Like, that's your reputation gone, right? And so perhaps even the interventions should come from that level, you know, where adults have to, and even officials like yourself, Captain, have to put yourselves in the shoes of the victims and even learners in general and say, if I were to be in the situation, or if this was my situation, how would I would have wanted this problem to be addressed. But let's talk about the program itself, Ms. Buis. Do you think that it is bringing about the much needed relief and assistance that it aims to give?
Okay, so because I am the supporter of the program, definitely I'm going to say yes, it is bringing about the much needed relief in terms of creating awareness. And I think where the strength of the program is the fact that young people, they listen to one another more than they listen to us as adults. And the entry point for this program, Asifuni GBV, is the learner-led advocacy in schools. So we are using the energy that is in the room to influence each other positively around understanding what is gender-based violence and what is bullying, and how does gender-based violence, or we even call it school-related gender-based violence, manifests in school, and then what, as learners, the program also empowers the learner leaders that are in the room around the knowledge and the skills that they can use to influence each other as learner leaders, including the learners in their own schools, around the role that they can play to advocate. And I said in my earlier answer is that our entry is around prevention, because when we now talk at the level where someone is being already bullied and someone is a victim, and how that gender-based violence or that experience of violence actually disempowers them to the fact that when they are even being provided an opportunity to be supported, they still go back to that situation, and we know why that plays out psychologically. But the program therefore is using the premise of peer-to-peer education, peer-to-peer learning, and using the energy that young people have to influence each other positively around understanding respect for each other, tolerance for difference, because we know, as we have heard, that bullying also is caused by when learners are perceiving others as different and they are not tolerant towards differences. So as learners are being taught this information and this knowledge and these skills, then they are actually being empowered to influence their environment for the better. In that regard, I think then the program has an opportunity, especially if we can scale it up and ensure that the message reaches all learners, not only a small number of our learners. Then we are beginning to change how they think and how they act towards one another. And in that, then from school to home, to community. And I think then we have a hope for a better future for South Africa.
Yeah. Kagiso, do you want to add before we move to the next element?
Yeah, I think I can just rewind a bit to answer that question which you mentioned, that you think that that victim loved being beaten. I think you can relate it with validity. You know, as humans, we seek validity in everything we do. We seek validity, whether it's academic validation or being loved or sort of that thing. So I think you can relate it with validity. That individual felt like she was being loved. She felt validity in being beaten. It was a proof to him or her that she was being loved. But to come with you, sis, it's sis who? Sis Buiswa. The intervention is quite great. I think it started even last year at the RCL conference that we had in June last year. So in my capacity last year after the conference, we tried to sort of copycat it to our province. And then because our province is quite diverse, we tried to change the slogan a bit to Asibatli GBV. We tried to configure the two languages, Asibatli GBV in our schools. And
Creative.
yeah. And that's what we made. I think if you look at what you mentioned, that it must be a point that it reaches everyone in every level. And there's provincial, there's district, there's circuit, there's school. It is hard to reach the district, but it's a lot easier to reach a circuit. It's a lot easier to reach a school. So we have to strategize in a way that we go to circuit level. Because if it ends on me as the provincial chairperson, it's going to be hard for me to see a wide province like Mpumalanga. Mpumalanga is quite big. You cannot reach Nkangala, you cannot reach Kertsi one day and all that. So, but if we go on a micro level and say, in this circuit of 7 schools, we do this, we can try to obliterate this issue. So I think we have to note that.
All right, please don't forget to keep the conversation going on social media. Hashtag Asifuni on your preferred social media platform. We are also streaming on YouTube, and you can get that link on the Agape Youth Movement YouTube page. Share that on your WhatsApps and your other platforms, just to tell people what we are talking about, but also get those questions coming up. We will be taking some questions, especially to those who have joined us online. We'll be picking up on those questions in a bit, but also taking it to the audience, where we'll get questions in a bit. We have a roving mic where we'll get some of your questions. There's one over there, someone in front who's dying to say something. Please stand up, introduce yourself, and tell us what your comment or question is.
Hi, my name is Zaina Davids from Hoërskool Jeugland. I just had a question regarding to the young girl who finds being abusive enjoyable from her boyfriend. I just had a question about, what if it's not her enjoying it? What if it's seen as normal because this is how she's been brought up at home, and where abuse is mistaken for love? What do we do in that instance? Yes, that's my question. Thank you.
Very valid question.
Thank you. I'm Franz Khove from the NECT. But I've got
From where, sorry?
From the NECT.
Sure.
So I've got a question and a comment at the same time. But I'll start with the comment. We are here engaging on GBV, but we seem to remove it from violence itself within the school and outside the school community. Because before you are a learner, you are a member of a community. And then now we seem to be comfortable with discussing it here, but when it's after school, 2 o'clock, you as a teacher or a police officer could just even pass someone or some learners fighting out there, and then it seems to be normalized like that. I'm just pleading that we sometimes, and next time, we call in the community to engage with them such issues, because we can't find solutions here alone as learners, because their first priority when they enter that school gate is to learn, and they are not trained to deal with issues. And even if I, as a learner, I come to you and open up, you find me crying and all of that, You are not a psychologist, you are not trained to deal with such issues. You can't make me come down at that particular moment. And then secondly, as our subs is here, I'm very much happy that they are here. That if we see situations that we want to report, and we're seeing that you as a perpetrator, as a victim, you are not willing to go and report that issues. How do we then deal with it? And then thirdly, this is the last one. In closing, these programs, it's a very nice program and we appreciate it, but they seem to target the most articulative learners in schools. And we ignore those who are perpetrators in school, the bullies. My suggestion is that please take those bullies, get them involved in these programs because they are going to be very much pivotal for this program to engage with those who are doing that. Thank you.
All right, I think let's answer the first batch.
Can we get
Thank you
one
so much for that.
One more.
Can we answer the first batch of the questions, please? A very important point that was raised by the young lady at the back about, I guess further victimizing the victim, potentially, right? Where you'd hear one say, they enjoy being abused, but what if it's just a reality of where they're from?
Okay, thank you for the question. I think Kagiso is the one that spoke about validation. So, of course, when a child grows up in an environment where it seems normal, I think the captain also spoke about it to say, in a space where we are at home, we are literally, I'm sorry, can I just, what the breadwinner. So you need to literally sit and bear this pain because you don't want to find yourself homeless or having to go to bed having eaten, So I think with this particular learner, I think it goes back to validation. Or in her mind, she's created some sort of idea of that being love. She thinks that this boy loves her by doing what he's doing to her. So it could be her seeing it as normal, even though it's not, because one, either she feels, I really love this person, and for whatever reason, she just does not want to leave him alone, So he could be giving her money, he could be buying her data, because it's a high school relationship. I don't want to say he supports her, but it could be he buys her lunch, he buys her airtime, he buys her data. So she's enjoying those kind of benefits, and she feels, if I leave this person, then I lose that. Or it could be, if I break up with this particular person and I move on with Mduduzi, then I'm now dragging Mduduzi into my mess, which means now we are both going to be abused. So I don't know if I've answered her question.
I think her question is centered more around, and it's related also to the question that the gentleman raised about how to deal with a case when the victim is not ready to report or deal with it themselves. And so it almost sounds like we are judgmental of the person who is in those shoes. But also, how do we balance it out between supporting and also just being a little stern, right? You could have a friend, for example, in my world, you could have a friend that you support through an abusive relationship, but at some point, now as the supporter, you get fatigue. I don't know if there's supporters fatigue or if that's a thing. And so how do we bridge that gap, Captain?
Thank you very much. Let me just say something on this one. To me, I don't know the incident. I don't know the person who's affected. But it comes across as a person who is exposed to this from where they come from. She may be staying with a mother who experiences the same and deals with it by not doing anything about it. And she may have thought, oh, my mother has mastered the art. My father would beat my mother, and my mother would keep quiet about it. So this is the way to deal with it. Mind you, they learn by observing. Then now, he is now the secondary victim now. He's the victim now in her own space. He learned from home. You don't report when you are dealing with this. And my mother is my best teacher. You understand? So it's you are correct. It starts from where we come from. You know, what we see in the school is a manifestation of what prevails in our households. I thought I should just say something about that. Then abuse. The responsibility lies in the shoulders of a teacher. The teacher it is legislated that when there is abuse, it is the responsibility of the teacher to report abuse to the police, not the victim. It's either the teacher or the principal, but the responsibility lies with the teacher.
Do you feel empowered to do that, Teacher Tando? Do you feel empowered to do that as a teacher, to take things or report cases that happen in your classroom and feel that out to the police?
Yes and no. Because we have, in schools, we do have the SAPS. Like there's a particular officer that is allocated to a school or to our schools. And we also do have social workers, right? So personally, I could be wrong, but personally I feel you cannot help someone that does not want to be helped. You know, I could speak to a particular officer that is stationed or that is placed in our school to say, look, I've got a learner going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And eventually I feel like the officer will need to speak to the person. And if she feels, I don't want to talk about it, then I feel like to some extent, Linna, my efforts, hunal modifelang.
Yeah, true. Let's get the next round of questions. And I wonder, and I'll hand you the mic since you're sitting close to me, Captain. In that case, let's say she reports the case and the victim, says, no, I don't want to take it up further. What then is done? And can I just caution that we just stay away from like specific cases, as I don't want to further, victimize people who may be compromised already. But hypothetically, if Teacher Tando has already reported it, the victim is not willing to speak out or get the perpetrator apprehended, iphelela laphi case?
In the chain of command, the teacher is primarily the teacher is expected to create an awareness, to report the case. Then when the case has been reported, we don't respond directly. We get the information. We activate Department of Social Development. That's the protocol. They get involved because they've got the expertise. They've got the social workers, they've got psychiatrists, they've got the expertise to now approach the child. So we just get information, get the case reported, but we don't deal with the case yet because the teacher and the police official are not trained, as he may have said. But the DSD, they've got expertise. Then they're the one that they will approach the affected learner in consultation with the parent, because the parent has a way of speaking to their children. Then when they have covered that ground, that is only when now they involve us to say, okay, there's cooperation now. Let us now deal with this statement. And we don't, it's not on the normal police official at the police station. We've got a department, a unit that is specializing with these cases. So we activate them. Because even from within SAPS, there are those that are specializing, that are trained only to deal with such cases. We only activate them. Guys, we've got your case. Then they go and attend to that case because they've got this expertise. And why do we do that? Until the child finds themselves in a victim-friendly facility, they are not yet ready to talk. In a classroom, in a classroom or in the staff room, that environment is not conducive for a child to speak. You see, because they know what is happening in those environments. So the child will be placed in the victim-friendly facility where where they will feel free to express themselves in front of people with the skills. Thank you very much.
I'll hand you the mic just now. Just want to get more thoughts from the audience. Keep the hashtag going on social media, hashtag Asifuni. You can also stream us on YouTube on the Agape Youth Movement, page on YouTube, or channel on YouTube. Stream us there and share that widely. Your question, comment?
Good morning. I am Matlala Dinyiko from Kibla Park Secondary School. I am a junior commissioner from Mondo Police Station together here with my team. Right now, so I'd like to first give a solution, which is something that was the question that was asked. So most students do not report, right, because they do not feel comfortable. So in a way, to make them feel comfortable, we could implement peer-to-peer. So what we do is that we have school talks with schools. So we have reached even more than 10 schools within the Mondio district. So we have talks with them regarding issues that we feel that they contribute to this violence. And it is more relatable hearing your peer talking about a specific thing, and we also encourage them to report. And it is successful, trust me, because they interact and they sit down and take in the information. Now, the question that I have is that if you're faced with a case whereby you are trying to inform and educate, however, there is a specific, or let me say learners, that just refuse to take in the information because of a particular belief or stereotype that they have. Now, how do you break that strong mindset if they are disputing whatever you are saying strongly so?
Thank you for that question. Noted. Let's get some more from the audience, please. We have more hands.
Greetings, everyone. So, standing before you is Andile Hope Mahlangu from the Nkangala district, all the way from Pumalanga. So, the question I have for Mrs. Tando is that why don't you, as teachers, at least try to penalize the perpetrator, but not really to penalize him, but to discipline him for aiming to educate and reform, rather than solely punish him, because we don't know what he is going through that leads him to doing whatever that is doing. And to also provide counseling to help him understand that the impact of his actions and learn healthy behaviors. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you. Next one.
As a girl
What
child,
is
I'm no longer feeling safe. The society we are living in is more like pain. The fear, the stress of not knowing what could happen to you each and every time you step out the door. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Angel Kumalo, the Junior Commissioner from Western District. So my question is, what do we do when a student comes forward to say, I live under abuse, my mother is being abused, and I'm also being abused. But then we are scared to report the issue because my father is notorious. We are scared that if we report him, we might end up dead or even injured. What do we do? What act do we take to help them?
Thank you for that. I think we can take some more, yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Nonhle Ncube, a learner on Jeugland's RCL group. So this is more a question for the RCL on the RCL panel. Which tools are we equipped with to be able to show compassion, inclusion, and support to victims post-violence, I want to emphasize, because there will now be a stigma attached to them for being known as a victim that could cause shame and embarrassment, especially in a high school environment where there are certain social hierarchies, where they might be no more included in their social group because they're like, oh no, this happened to you and such. So how can we as RCL not reintroduce them to the environment, but again, show them compassion and that we stand with them?
Let's try get some more. I'm noting your questions and comments.
Hello, leaders. My name is Ruben Mutwawi. I have a question here. We know that GBV is not only for boys and girls or male or females. So I have a question. The question says, how can we create a safe and supportive environment for learners who identify as LGBTQ+, and what specific challenges do they face?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Ompile Majola speaking. I wanted to ask a question. We spoke about after school is after school. Hey, so now the problem is, I'm from a township school. We face certain problems such as the after school is after school, or stitches get stitches and all of those things. The question is, coming from a township school, we face situations such as after school is after school. Now there are external factors involved with it. for example, Mabollo, we call them initiation schools in English, yes? Those people come with weapons and they attack our learners, and like it's a problem that we face. Now, the question I wanted to ask is, how, as leaders of the school, do we like face these such situations, and what are the solutions, or what as leaders of the school equipped with to face such situations? Yes.
All right, I'm going to close down questions for the moment. I think we've got a good batch of questions to engage on. I think really prevalent to me is the issue of changing attitudes, right? Myths and stereotypes when it comes to abuse, but also perspectives. And possibly, maybe Sisbuiswa, you could take that one. How challenging is it to change learners' perceptions about gender-based violence? Everything that we're talking about today, the hashtags and the messages and all of that, and this is just based on research, more often than not go over the heads of young people, because they may feel like these projects and the older people are just speaking at them and not with them. And so that makes it harder for them to actually, internalize it and actually believe it when they already have pre-existing notions, principles, and misconceptions about what is right and what is wrong.
Sure, it's actually a complex thing to change people's socialization, because the belief systems, the stereotypes that we are having are coming from a number of years of growing up with the same messaging from home, from society, from media. It feeds what we believe. However, if we try and tailor-make messages that are on an ongoing basis, not once-off programs, because once-off programs, you are not going to change a person. But if we try and structure these programs in such a manner that the messaging is ongoing, is continuous, and it builds on the knowledge that they are getting from school. I think here we need, as the people who are facilitating the extracurricular programs, also understand what is the messaging that is in the curriculum. But we need to also take it further outside the school in terms of changing those environments. Also engage our parents, because the belief system or the stereotypes that the learner will hold on to would be the values or the information that they got from home, and they don't want to let go of that. Or some of those, which we call them harmful, they may also come from their religious beliefs or cultural beliefs that they get from home, which are actually harmful. And therefore, through these programs, let's not only just target our learners to change their thinking. Let's also engage parents, so that parents give the right messages to their children. Let's also engage our religious and traditional leaders in communities, so that the message that the learner gets from the program, such as Asifuni, GBV, she or he also gets it at home. They also get it if they go to church or if they are in their community space.
How do we do that when the very parents, some parents are also victims of gender-based violence? Or even the same people that you may talk about, our religious leaders and men of the cloth, who are the very same people who are abusing girls in our communities. It almost feels like it's this vicious cycle, and there is no solution. And I'm not saying, let's just throw the bathwater out of the thingy, but it's just, it almost feels like we fighting a battle and there is no end in sight.
Thank you very much. I think for me, taking a cue from what you have just said, I think for me, maybe let us go slowly, because this is a serious problem, and it seemingly is bigger than all of us for now. For me, my interest is in the teacher. How do we know if a teacher is not a victim and the perpetrator in their own right? It is with the police officer that reacts to a situation when there is a call. How do we know if the person that is reacting in a beautiful blue uniform if he's not a perpetrator nor a victim, the parent, you see, if you can arrest it at that level, to say those that have close contact with our learners, how do we screen them? To check, because there will be bias. They will throw away the law and use their bias to address issues. Hence, we are not winning the battle. So I'm only, that is why I say their role should be more of an oversight than support. To say, are you fit for duty as a teacher? Because it starts there. Because you find that there are statistics at that level as well. Not because they will just shoot at their wives and kill everybody in the house, but they are the custodian of this domestic violence. How do we ensure that those that are involved in this are not perpetrators nor victims? Because their biases will influence how they deal with the issue, so that we can be able to keep the scourge. Then we can take a step further. But those that have got close contact with our learners, may we have systems in place to at least screen them and check if our children are safe in their hands.
There was also an important point that was raised about handling, and I think it's related to your point, how to handle domestic violence in the home, where, you know, a learner might be saying, okay, well, you know, this is my situation at home, maybe my dad is beating up my mother, and then they come with all of that to school, right? And it affects learning and thriving within this environment, and so that affects you as well, Teacher Thando. So how do we then deal with something like that? I think it's more for you, because because, you know, it may come to them as the learners, right? But ingaphezu kwabo as well, because it almost feels like it's a domestic issue. That domestic issue is spilling over into schooling as well.
Yeah, that is why I say all we are expected to do as police officers as well as teachers, report somewhere so that it can be attended to. There will be people that even if it ends in the court of law, it's still okay. The court of law will apply itself and see how best they can assist everybody that is affected. Because even the perpetrator, they may also come across as victim of some domestic violence that may have prevailed, yes, you see. So let us create an awareness and let us deal with issues than not to report issues. Now, I just promote the reporting of issues. Let us come out and say, but there is a problem there. If you see, in that scenario, even the parent will come and be defensive. You expect them to assist. Then they will say, why? Why do you expose my child? Take my child back to the classroom, because of what they know about themselves as well. You understand? So, but social workers and psychologists and those, they must be able to pick up from everything. Okay, there's also a problem here. Intervention must also take place.
Yeah. Also important intervention that I need your thoughts on, to our student leaders here on the podium, is the issue of the LGBTIQ plus community. You know, obviously with social media, people are open now about their sexuality. It's conversations that are happening, whereas back then they were happening, you know, behind closed doors, right? So people are coming out of the closet, as it were. But, you know, have you been faced with those type of issues, and how did you deal with them?
For me personally, we didn't quite try to go into that direction, but I think it then put you in a position where you try to redefine GBV as the violence against one personal gender identity. That I'm a man, you abuse me because I acknowledge myself as a man. You abuse me because I acknowledge myself as a woman. So for me personally, it's not a matter that we try to engage on, but we see it every day. there's stereotypes, there's all those bad mouthing, and it goes back to bullying. But I also want to answer some of the questions which was raised, some of the questions that were raised by our student leaders there to say, how do we address this issue? I believe that forming a constitution or a code of conduct or documenting something which will give us a guideline as to how we respond to these issues is the crucial part. As we speak at my school level, we are trying to develop an anti-bullying policy. It's related to this. It's going to give us a clear direction as what do we do at school when an individual is exposed to bullying? What measures do we follow? Written in black and white. So that's what I think we as RCL leaders can do for now. Yeah.
I think from what we've heard so far, we can now understand that GBVF, or just gender-based violence and femicide, combating that is a multifaceted issue, right? It involves multiple parties to just fix this issue, not just the students, not just the teachers, but the principal, community, and of course the police. And I'd like to answer 2 questions that we heard from the crowd, and of course I'll be providing my suggestion or in a sense solution to that. First of all, going back to what you mentioned about the LGBTQIA community, right? What platform do they have in terms of GBV? And I like how you mentioned redefinition. I'd like to further elaborate on that. We need to redefine what exactly we mean by gender-based violence, because the word gender, especially nowadays, is quite volatile. We don't know what does it mean for a personal level. What is your gender? Or in this case, as we've seen recently, right, it's more open to express what you identify as. And this doesn't change anything, especially regarding gender-based violence, because gender-based violence is the violence or discrimination based on what you can identify as or what your gender is. It doesn't matter regardless of what you identify as, but rather if an individual harms you because of issues related to your own being, whether that be your gender or identity, right? So that's one thing I wanted to add on that. And of course, that means they can still use the same platform as members suffering from GBV, right? Because it's for you as well. You're not all of a sudden outshunned because you're in a different community, right? And another question I'd like to deal with is on how a student mentioned, but what if through awareness we are trying to give speeches, right? We are trying to let the learners aware that, this is wrong and we're trying to do all these things, but they close themselves off. They don't want to listen to the solutions. Even if it's from a teacher, police officer, or from another learner, they don't want to change. And one answer I have for that is that from birth, we are all tuned to learn or learn from something or someone. For most of us, this is our parents, right? And there's been quite a discussion on what if the parents are part of this issue, right? But in this specific instance, I like to mention how the learner is more inclined to listen to their own parents. They're people who set these foundations, these barriers, right? Who set these, in a sense, to teach the learner. Because at the end of the day, what the learner learns is taught by and enforced by the parent. So for situations where they refuse to listen to external sources of information regarding their issue, let's go for the parents. Let's attack it at the source, right? The one individual they'll listen to, even if it's not parents but family. We let those people away and they'll be more inclined to change.
Education that needs to show. You can give him a round of applause. Education that needs to happen at various levels. You would have seen Captain literally tap out and saying, listen, I need a substitute. I want to give you someone who is based in schools and well-versed in this conversation. We are going to wrap up this conversation after just getting her thoughts as well. That is Warrant Officer Maluleke. Thank you so much, Warrant Officer Maluleke. I think many of the questions or issues that have been raised here really speak to the work that you do in schools. And perhaps you can give us an understanding of, in your view, how much of a problem this is, but also if you have any thoughts about the program itself, hashtag Asifuni.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Warrant Officer Maluleke from the National Youth Crime Prevention. I'm doing school-based crime prevention. You know, there are a lot of cases that has been reported of especially bullying and violence at schools. Also on that, I just want also to tap more on GBV because the topic is GBV. It comes to our attention, the police officials, only once it is reported. It's something that is happening in the school's yard, in the school class, that we as police officers, you won't see us patrolling around the school and the classes. Only if once it's been reported and it gets into our attention. I'm saying so because of, they like to say the police are doing nothing. We'll do nothing if it's not being reported. And number two, we want to have more reporting so that we can do something. But the people that can report, it's either the learners or the teachers. We once had a case in the Western Cape where there was violence at schools and it was on all over social media. We went as the police officers and other stakeholders to go to the school to make an intervention. We open a skeleton docket. We as police will open a skeleton docket, but we wanted the victim or the victim's parent to come forward to make the case strong. But the case didn't pass when it comes to NPA because there was no victim who's reporting that to make the case strong. So if you come and say you've been bullied or you've been abused at schools and the teacher goes and open a case, but when you have to come and give a statement, you go back, then there's nothing that we can do. So, you know, I think we need to come up with programs that will motivate victims. We empower victims. We're sitting here as the weakness or as what we think is happening at school, but what are the what are the victims saying about being bullied or being abused at school? You know, if we stand up for ourselves as victims, let's stand up and do something. But lastly, I just want to say something. We once had a program, it's an excursion that we had, that we're taking like the bullies, you know, the naughty kids at school, and we go to prison tours, you know, to the most dangerous prison in South Africa, that they can see that if you start here by bullying one another or by being committing crime or whatever, you will end up being here and have interactions with the people, yes, the prisoners. So I think also that it will also help them to say, I don't want to end up here. You know, let me refrain and do something else that can assist me, you know, not to end up here. Yeah, thanks.
Sis, will you just closing comments from you?
I think what we need to conscientize our learners, our parents, as well as our communities, is about also emphasizing the issue of human rights. I want to come especially to the comment around the LGBTQI communities, that everyone has a right to safety, has a right to freedom of their own identity. And if we can also take it back to our homes, children, there is a saying that the potato does not get aivutwa in the pot. I don't know how to explain that in English. It does not get cooked in the pot. The potato ripens in the garden. So we need to actually, I want to support your statement, work with parents, because children's characters are shaped at home. If our parents can be empowered, because they also come and say, we do not know how to talk to our children. So how do we work with our parents so that as they are raising their children, they shape them with respect for others' rights? In South Africa, March, we are commemorating human rights, but rights also comes with responsibilities. in schools, let us make, say, I think the Department of Basic Education has sufficient guidelines and policies that are in place in terms of making sure that schools are safe. But the home must be where we can also go back to ensure that our learners or our children are shaped right. Thank you.
All right. I think let me get closing remarks from you as well as we wrap up this conversation.
Oh, okay. I think, first of all, we need to appreciate platforms like these, first of all. And we also need to appreciate initiatives or programs such as the Agape Youth Movement, because, look, if it were not for this kind of setup, we were not going to be able to go back to schools and implement the strategies or the solutions that have came up today or in last year or whenever we've met Le Agape, right? The second thing is that I want to concur with what Captain said. We, at the end of the day, our jobs as educators is to teach. My job is the ATP, right? Of course, we are taught the 7 other roles, you know, parent, whatever, in the absence of, but my main purpose is to teach. And at the end of the day, I cannot be a social worker to a learner. Yes, I could be the teacher who listens, who advises, who supports, but msebenzi waka, it's not to become a social worker. There are people who are trained for that. There are people who are trained to be psychologists, right? And I also feel like if in schools we could have active social workers, active psychologists, active SAPS, not that you guys are not active, but if everyone can come into this and we work collaboratively to fix our schools or to fix our communities, then I feel like we could go far. Also, you know, in the education or in the school situation, if I can call it that, it's a triangle, right? It's the school, the learner, and the parent. But right now, it's always learner, school, learner, school. The parents are absent. So we also need to find a way to involve these parents because, like we've all mentioned, it boils down to the parents or at home because charity does begin at home. So I feel like if we can all just somehow come together and fight this GBV, I feel like we are moving in the right direction. Thank you.
And thank you so much for that, teacher. I mean, I think what I'm hearing from everybody, it's a resounding vote for support and collaboration. And so I'd like to thank, you know, the two of you for really being present in your own worlds, right? One in school, one in advocacy and education. For doing the work that needs to be done, and that is educating people and keeping that flag flying, but also to the students as well, for representing your constituencies and also really sharing your thoughts. Sisi Nawa, thank you so much for your time. Warrant Officer Maluleke. Yes, Maluleke, for joining us and stepping in and saying, look, let me share my thoughts. I am going to wrap this part of the program because we need to be on an online call with Mpho Bunze, who is from the office of the Deputy Minister, Steve Letsike's office. So let's just hear their thoughts on the program itself, but also plans going forward. Oh, is he here? Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. So, yeah, I think just to round it up, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Also asking the man from Agape Youth Movement to be on set. As straight after that, he will giving us an address as well.
Mic check. Thank you, Program Director, representatives from the Department of Education, the GIZ, Agape Youth Movement, and other esteemed partners, educators, parents, learners, and all young leaders in attendance, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As introduced, my name is Mpho Bunze. I am the Deputy Director in the Office of the Deputy Minister responsible for youth, women, and persons with disabilities. Let me first start by sending the Minister's heartfelt apologies for not making it today. One would know that this is Cabinet Week, where members of the executive are engaging, answering questions related to a number of cabinet matters. The Deputy Minister would have loved to come and address you, alternatively, join virtually to address you. Why was this important for her? Deputy Minister is one person who is very passionate about issues of young people, but in particular, young leaders that are actively participating in the livelihood of their fellow peers and learners. So please do receive her apologies. She does send a commitment to say she is with you and she supports your work. I will share some extracts on her message of the day that I believe would have been key for this platform. This campaign is more significant as we celebrate the Human Rights Month, as one of the means of reaffirming human rights provided for by the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. We must not cease to raise awareness of GBV as a human rights violation act, regardless of where it is taking place. Human rights are needed to protect and preserve every individual's humanity in order to ensure that they live a long life of dignity and a life that has inherent worth of humanity. She expresses her personal commitment and commitment of our democratic government in upholding the human rights obligation of all. Hence, she unreservedly supports the launch of this innovation or innovative initiative, Asifuni initiative. This learner-led program places young people at the forefront of addressing school-related gender-based violence. And as one of the participants rightly indicated, we need to see gender-based violence beyond just happening between a man and a woman. In recent discussions around how do we conceptualize the idea around violating individuals, there is a buzzword, intimate partner violence, wherein people from the LGBTIQ plus community still find themselves at the receiving end of many variations of violations, and it often becomes very difficult for them to open these cases for fear of secondary victimization from the South African police services. She commends the efforts of Agape Youth Movement, a youth-led organization committed to equipping young people with leadership skills to address pressing societal challenges. Agape Youth Movement has conceptualized the two-pronged approach of one, building future leaders for South Africa, and secondly, creating spaces for current youth leaders to actively tackle social ills like gender-based violence as well as inequalities. In South Africa, gender-based violence is defined as a general term used to capture violence that occurs as a result of the normative role expectations associated with gender, associated with the sex assigned to a person at birth, and also associated with unequal power relations between the genders within societal context. Therefore, gender-based violence involves physical, verbal, emotional, psychological, abuse, neglect, exploitation, coercion, economic or educational deprivation, sexual or threats of such acts, whether occurring in public or private life, in peacetime, during armed or other forms of conflict. We have seen in war areas or in wartime where women and children often find themselves at the receiving end of violation and abuse. The Q2 crime statistics of 2024 revealed the terrible violence perpetrated against women and children in our society. While violent crimes have decreased overall between July and September in 2024, crimes against women and children continue to increase, often in their homes. It is also reported that learners also are and do not feel safe in educational facilities. I would implore you to go to the recently released crime statistics, which will paint a very scary picture about where crime happens, where violation happens, and you'd be surprised that most of it happens in spaces where we're supposed to feel safe, our educational institutions such as our schools. Of the 106 rapes that occurred on the premises of schools, universities, colleges, or daycare facilities, 90 of the victims were learners and 6 were students. There were 13 cases of murder, 24 of attempted murder, and 318 assault GBH cases perpetrated at educational facilities. The Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities welcomed the hashtag Asifuni initiative by the Department of Basic Education, led by the students, facilitated by Agape Youth Movement. As we take our war against GBV through the Asifuni initiative, a learner-led program that places youth at the forefront of addressing school-related GBV, we are aligning our efforts with implementation of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. One would have heard of the NSP on GBVH, an important document that guides each and every one of us as sectors, as individuals, on how to confront issues of GBV. But we are also guided by the implementation of the policy on the prevention and management of learner pregnancy in schools. We are guided by the protocol for the management and reporting of sexual abuse in schools, and finally, the integrated school health policy. Important documents that I think as learner leaders, as RCL leaders, you need to familiarize yourselves with them so that as you confront and challenge issues around gender-based violence, at least you are doing so from a point of view of understanding what is happening at the level of our country. It is clear that the fight against GBV in schools require active youth agency, close stakeholder collaborations, proper coordination and commitment of all key stakeholders who play a vital role in the fight against gender-based violence and femicide, to work with the existing learner leadership structures that exist in all public, primary, and secondary schools. The Representative Council of Learners would play a leading role in terms of facilitating and mobilizing all learners behind our fight as a country to end GBV. Programs like Asifuni empowers you as learner leaders to challenge harmful social norms and stereotypes, to advocate for gender equality and inclusivity. Hence, when we speak of gender-based violence, we cannot divorce it from learners that identify as LGBTQ, living with disabilities, or find themselves at the margins of society. Develop leadership skills that will carry you beyond the classroom. The 2022 National GBV study revealed the devastating prevalence of GBV across all sectors of a society. With schools not being immune to the scourge, school-based interventions such as those led by the RCLs and many of you working with the SAPs have also contributed in this head some of the interventions that could be used. These are crucial to breaking cycles of violence and co-creating environments where learners feel safe and supported together with learners themselves. Today's launch is not just a celebration, but a clarion call for action. We must expand initiatives like Asifuni to schools across the country. We must ensure sustained collaboration between government, civil society, and youth-led organizations. And finally, secure resources to support capacity building for learners, educators, and school governing bodies. It is scary. If you have time after this, just take time to Google how much does GBV and femicide cost us as a country. It's a lot of money that could be redirected to ensuring that we have more bursaries or we cover other socio-economic issues that remains to be a headache for us as a state. The Deputy Minister would like to say to everyone, as we continue with the 365 Days of Activism campaign, let us remain steadfast and resolute in our commitment to eradicating gender-based violence and femicide. Let today mark a turning point in our collective journey towards building a South Africa where every learner can thrive without fear. To the young leaders in this room, you are the heartbeat of this movement. We believe in you, we stand with you, and we will support you as you lead us into a brighter future. The minister often says she does not see young people as leaders of tomorrow. Rather, she sees you as leaders of today, because whatever that will happen in future will be decided by yourselves. So take ownership of Asifuni, make it part and parcel of your everyday life. It does not help that Asifuni is going to be confined in the walls of our schools. We need to carry it even beyond the confines of the school. I always say, as an individual, I chill a lot as a gay identifying young man. I often chill with straight guys. I'm going to speak your language now. I often chill with straight guys, and I think I have over time, consciously and unconsciously, become a voice for everyone. It has never happened where a group of young men, or how old, no matter how old they are, would violate a woman in my presence, would violate a person living with disabilities in my presence, would violate an LGBTQ individual in my presence. If that still happens in the company that you keep, you must know that it is time to change your company. It is your responsibility to ensure that if you are sitting with your friends and they say, hey, gay, hey, sissy boy, hey, this, we know that that's violation to an individual, and it's your responsibility to actually conscientize and stop GBV, gender-based violence, femicide from happening, because these are enablers. They allow the situation to go beyond what we may see as a friend just playing or just passing remarks. Thank you very much to Agape for inviting the Deputy Minister, and she sends her support for you, hoping that she will work with you moving forward. Thank you.
That is what I call speaking from the heart, just compelling young people to look within and be the change that they want to see in their own world. Thank you so much for that. That was Mpho Bunse coming from the Office of the Deputy Minister. Another message of support as we round up our conversation will be from Usisi Ntongolozi Bembe from the National Education Collaboration Trust. All set and ready to go for us. We really appreciate the many sponsors and partners who are here today, because this day wouldn't be possible without you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. And thank you to the departments that convened us today. I would like to shout out to Agape Youth Movement. My heart is close to them. This is an organization that I do a lot of learner and youth leadership program with. So me being here is not by chance. It's because when the government of South Africa, especially the Department of Basic Education, call on us, we always say yes. So thank you so much to all the partners. And we know that we would have loved to have the both deputy ministers. We know that they are on a country duty, and we appreciate that they've sent representatives who honored this invite. And to my right, the learners, you know that the work that we do is because we want to see you succeed. We really appreciate you. My task here is very clear. It's just to say, as I was sitting down there, I was unaware of the insights that was coming from the learners. The time for us to sit in our econ condition offices and discuss learner leadership or learner initiatives without the learners has come to pass. You have proven that. I'm saying to you today, please take this initiative and run with it, because it's you who can make this world a better place. We are saying it must not be confined in the corners of your schools, but take it with you. I mean, as a champion of the Child and Youth Agency framework, I always say that it's only when the learners are involved that we are going to start seeing policy in action. Otherwise, we'll continue developing the good policies without implementation. As all the other speakers have said, that without collaboration, without partnership, government alone cannot do it. This issue is a societal issue, and it needs all of us to put our hands together. I am saying, take this initiative as ambassadors, run with it. It must not only end in your schools, encourage people in your homes, in your churches, and everywhere else. Agape, I am saying, continue the good work. It's not only an organization, but it's a youth-led organization. I know in the other spaces we championing Ubuntu Youth Leaders Program, it talks about values, similar to what we are here for today. I am saying to you, I see the colleagues from GDE that we always collaborate with on RCL matters, on us training on other youth programs. To you sitting that side, you are so privileged, and I like the insights. I just wanted you to keep on talking and not us. I wanted us to listen. I mean, I want all the partners, your GIZ, your NECTs, your Agape, just to listen to you for once. I mean, ours is just to support what you are saying. The answers and the solutions are sitting with you. Do not ever doubt that you have the capabilities to run this country. Thank you so much. Keep on, take it, run with it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sissy. We really appreciate it. I do not want to waste any more time, but to introduce the Superman of youth advocacy. This podium might be a little too tall for him, but I run the risk of getting in trouble because he actually usually makes that joke. So I'm not too sure if I've been given authority and approval to actually do it before him. I know that's his icebreaker, but let's have a round of applause for the, is it director of Agape, right? That is Matatsaba Letliane. Agape Dumela, Agape Dumela.
Yo, Dumela.
Thank you, Program Director, Sisbus. You called me. You took my joke. That's usually what I say when I send to podiums, that podiums, if it's taller, I'm not visible and people are like listening to the radio. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, young men and women. My name is Matsetse Vale Wagatliani. I'm privileged to be the managing director at Agape Youth Movement, a youth-led institution that supports government on innovative processes to enhance youth leadership experiences. We're very passionate about the work that we do because we know that we are products of RCLs. We learned leadership, we've experienced leadership, we tasted how it feels to get the privilege to lead your peers and make a difference in their lives while we're your age. And it is on this basis that we are here today. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Office of the Deputy Minister, Steve Mapaseka Litsike, Deputy Minister and the Presidency responsible for women, youth and persons with disability, represented here in flesh and blood by Mpo Bunzi. And the thing is, when I went to university, when I started studying at University of Johannesburg, when I arrived at UJ in Res, Mpo was my senior. And we also were in the same class. We were in the same public management and governance. We did public admin together. So it is not by mistake that you find us in this setup where we are supporting government processes, because we studied for it and we're doing it. So this is a little bit of a career pathing orientation for the young ones. I appreciate your presence, Mpo, the acting deputy minister. I can see that being a deputy minister or being a minister, you know, tomorrow you will be the real minister here addressing us. Also, we studied together at UJ. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the GIZ PFP program led by Sis Grace Akinyi Alu. She can raise her hand. She's still going to give an address here. She's accompanied by Mambui Iswa and Mr. Daniel Dola. I acknowledge the Office of the National Department of Basic Education, led by Honorable Director Mr. Liko Botoman, Director responsible for social cohesion and equity in education. These are my parents, people that are always surrounding me. I acknowledge NECT, I acknowledge Gauteng Department of Education, I acknowledge the National Office of South African Police Service, I acknowledge the Provincial Gauteng South African Police Service, and I acknowledge the RCLs and the Junior Commissioners. I acknowledge Matthew Goniwe Leadership Institute, that is also one of the partners in the hall. I acknowledge the presence of the Mpumalanga Department of Education, led by the provincial coordinator, Mr. Tlatswayo, here with his learners and district coordinators. I hope I acknowledged everyone that needed to be acknowledged, because I'm the one that invited you, so I needed to acknowledge. Colleagues, my duty is to do two things. I want to also acknowledge the educators that brought the learners here. The ones that say their role is to teach and not to be social workers. We see you, social worker wannabes. My role is to do two things. My role is to just showcase what we have experienced, what we have learned while we're doing the hashtag Asifuni, and also to present how do we take it forward. As I've said, as Agape, we usually say we are innovators of youth leadership support. That is our motto. We are innovators of youth leadership support. And this hashtag Asifuni is Nguni for we don't want it. Asifuni leaders for GBV free schools. Hashtag, it's just to speak your language. This is a concept that's conceptualized by young people. South Africa gave the world a blueprint of youth agency through what we've seen in this country in 1976. So if there's a country that needs to champion the leadership of young people on matters that concern them, in South Africa, young people in 1976 were fighting issues of policy. There was a policy issue that they had to stand and fight it. So it's quite surprising that today we have learners that are learner leaders and there are issues in their schools, but they're not standing up to fight them. And this initiative is just to support. We are not building you to be leaders. You're already leaders. You're already doing programs in your schools. But we're saying these are some of the things we could do here to strengthen. So the hashtag Asifuni is basically that. It is a joint initiative of the primary owner of this initiative is the RCL. It sits within the Department of Basic Education, implemented and facilitated by Agape Youth Movement, supported by the German Development Corporation's Partnerships for Prevention of Violence Against Women and Girls in Southern Africa. This program is one of the programs that GIZ is implementing in SADC on issues of GBV prevention. And when they came to us in South Africa, they said, South Africa, what do you want to do on issues of GBV? We said, we want to target young people and get them to be the leaders. So in other SADC countries, when you go there, you find traditional leaders, you find women leading interventions, but it is in South Africa, we, the custodians of youth development, that we are the ones. So this initiative, it's a SADC initiative. Can you please clap hands for this initiative? It's not a Mpumalanga, Gauteng initiative. It's a regional SADC initiative that goes beyond South Africa, and we thank GIZ for that initiative implemented by GAP. So I'm just going to go through some of the things that we've asked quite a number of learners after we've participated in this program, those that participated. We've done 2 provinces as a pilot. We've done, in these 2 provinces, we've done 6 districts. In Mpumalanga, we've done the Itlanzeni district, Gertsibande district, in Nkangala district, Gauteng, we've done the Tshwane North district, Johannesburg South district, and Sidibeng East district. And in each district, we pulled learners that were sitting at the RCL at the district level. We orientate them. We give them knowledge materials. They go back into their schools and they activate their peers on this topic. Phase 1 was the activation workshop. Phase 2 was the in-school implementation of programs. And phase 3 is this intergenerational dialogue where we're coming to share the experiences. And these are some of the responses that the participants say. These are responses from learners, educators, and parents. Let's go. So if you are a learner leader, do you now know better how to play a role in preventing, reporting, and managing cases of sexual harassment, school-related GBV, and violation of sexual reproductive health and rights in schools? They say, 46% of them say somewhat well. They know how now they can play their role in preventing. 48% say very well. And it's only that small fractions say not well and no change at all. But you can see the overwhelming response of those that have went through this program that say we are now better equipped to play our role in preventing as learners. Let's go to the next slide. We asked the learners a question: do you recognize the connection between sexual reproductive health and rights education or orientation and GBV prevention, and understand how improving access to sexual reproductive health and rights services and education reduce the risk of gender-based violence? 64% of them say very well. Can you please clap hands for that? Because the program was a link between sexual reproductive health and rights as a way to prevent GBV in an early attempt. So for a young lady or for a young man or adolescent boy, adolescent girl to know that it is my right to have pleasurable sex with a person of my choice anytime, you know, all of those things. It is their right to make decisions about those things. And the moment you know that these things are your right, it is your right to access health facilities for reproductive components. So when you know that, you are better placed to reject things that tend to go against that right. Let's go to the next slide. To what extent do you feel you now have a better understanding of the sexual reproductive health and rights-based GBV prevention and how it can be applied in school? Still, a majority, 56%, say very well. And 42% say somewhat well. And a small fraction say not well. So I agree, when you do in development, we are not looking at having 100% impact. And this thing is also not expressing the impact. We're just expressing the shift in attitude and knowledge or understanding by the young people. The issue of this knowledge that has been changed to have an impact is something that can be observed in a long term. Let's go to the next slide. Have you gained a better understanding of what harmful social norms are? Toxic masculinity, gender stereotypes, because of this program. 72% of them say yes, significantly better understanding. And 28% say yes, somewhat better understanding. No one said they don't understand what harmful social norms are. Let's move to the next slide. In your opinion, has the program encouraged a more supportive environment for learners in your school? 62% says yes, it has encouraged a supportive environment for learners. Well, learners, there was a learner who asked a question who said when their peers go to her to report some of these cases, she does not know what to say. But through this program, learners are encouraged to be more supportive and to also provide a conducive, supportive environment for their peers in schools. Next slide. Do you believe that the program will lead to lasting changes in your school community in terms of sexual and reproductive health, education, and GBV prevention? Yet another overwhelming majority, 64% says yes, definitely, 34% yes, probably. So you can see even the learners believe the impact that this will have. Next slide. Then these are some of the responses from the educators that participate in the program. Next slide. I'm more confident in supporting learners with sexual reproductive health and rights and GBV related issues. 52% of them extremely or strongly agree. And 29% they agree. So you can see that even educators themselves, we had an educator that is sitting on the panel says, they are now better supported and they feel confident in supporting learners with sexual reproductive health and rights. We'll be starting a process very soon with the education department, the education faculty at the University of Johannesburg. They reached out to us as a GAP and they said, all the educators that we are training, they are extremely scared of going into schools. And you can understand, now educators that are going to schools, they're like 22-year-old, 23-year-olds. Schools have become very unsafe and they are not equipped on implementing programs that can enhance safer schools. So we'll be interacting with them and AGAP will be running master classes with educators that are in their final years through this program so that even when they go to schools, #Asifuni would be some of the programs that they would then be implementing in the schools as new educators that seek to improve the safety of their school. Next slide. How would you rate the overall impact of the program on creating safer school environment? Somewhat positive, 47%, very positive, 41%, and neutral, it's 11%. So you can see the change in how educators perceive. Let's go to the next slide. We have, I think, 1 or 2 responses from the parents that we got to ask questions about the program. Let's go. Since the workshop campaign, do you feel more confident in discussing sexual reproductive health and rights and GBV prevention with your child or children? Because I agree other parents don't have only one child. They have decided as adults that they're going to have more than one child. So that's why we put children there to cover them so they don't feel like they're being... So 100% of parents say they feel confident or more confident in discussing these issues with their children. Can you please clap hands for that? Because this program is also a whole school community. It's not just focusing on learners. We have learners, we have educators, we've got school management teams, we've got officials at the district, at the provincial levels, we have got SGBs that are playing critical roles. So the parents that came to participate in the workshops, they are sitting on the school governing body. So the next time when they're in an SGB meeting, and a learner raises a point in the SGB meeting about issues of GBV in schools, the chairperson of the SGB can quickly understand and hear what issue is this learner raising. Because the RCLs, you know that you sit in SGBs. This program, another thing that it does is to enhance your ability to represent better the voice of your peers in the meetings. Let's go to the next slide. Since the workshop campaign, do you feel the whole school community, which is teachers, learners, and parents, are more supportive of GBV prevention? 90% says yes. Let's go to the next slide. This is the last slide, Ramshaba. Yeah, I believe this is the last slide. So now, in 2 minutes, I'll then just be showing you an innovative way through which we seek to replicate this program. I said we've done a total of 6 districts spread across 2 provinces. But how do we reach the whole country? Because the issues that we are facing or our schools are battling with are not just in the schools that we have encountered. So we today would be presenting for the first time in front of the whole country because I mean, we're live streaming across the whole country. The first of its kind RCL, online e-learning portal, that will be accessible to all RCLs in the whole country, in all classes. I present to you the RCL Hub. This is since 1994, this country starting with RCLs. We have never had a platform where a learner in grade 8 that has been democratically elected by her peers, where they can go and learn about RCL, where they can go and do a self-assessment, get a certificate of being in RCL and having done an activity. So it says there, welcome to the Representative Council of Learners RCL Hub. We're very proud to be announcing this. We are young leaders and we are supporting government with this innovative, because these parents of ours, when they're directors in DBE, when they come home, they're not even able to operate the DSTV remote. So it means that even at work, they must find us here with Abu Mpo, Abses Busi, helping them. So we are launching this thing. What would happen with this platform? Let's just go down. All RCLs, we've realized that RCLs, only a few of them get to go to capacity building sessions at a district level, at a circuit level. A lot of them. You know, when you take RCLs, coordinators would agree with me. When you take RCLs for training, you only take the executive. What happened to all the 50 learners in the school that don't even know what an RCL is? You walk into a school, you go to a grade 9 learner who is a class rep, you ask, are you an RCL? The learner says no, the RCL is the executive. A basic definition of what an RCL is, because the RCL is the parliament of learners in a school, right? You heard that the deputy minister is sitting in parliament. That is a national parliament of all citizens of the country, but in a school there's a parliament of learners and it is the RCL. And this platform looks at capacity. Let's go down. You see the welcome message there. We have the welcome message from Minister Honorable Siviwe Karube. Let's go down. Let's go down. We have message from Deputy Minister Dr. Mam Makabure Jaina Mahaule. Let's go down. So then it shows you the RCL structure, how the RCL is formed. Let's go down, my brother. Then you have infographics that in a snapshot explain to you. Stop there. Step 1, you elect a class rep. Step 2, you establish the RCL in the school. Step 3, you elect the executive committee. Step 4, you delegate RCLs that will sit in the SGB. And step 5 is time for action, which is what we are doing. Right? You can clap hands. I can see you're itching to clap hands. Let's go down. So it also gives you a snapshot of the RCL structure. In the school, you have a president, a deputy president, secretary, and a deputy secretary, the teacher liaison officer. You see your role there. You see the treasurer. And there's also videos that will be that we're showcasing, that showcase the RCL activities. Those are some of the videos. Let's go to the page about RCL. When you're able to go. These learners, they are now in university, but they were in RCLs when you took these photos. And then one beautiful session is this, Mr. Kekan. You will no longer be harassed by the Gauteng Department of Education saying you must pay Beachwood Hotel to take 100 or 500 learners to workshops. You must just say, hey, there's an online capacity building website for all the RCLs. I just want my certificates to come to my office. So it is also helping government to use resources efficiently, because you no longer need to be getting learners to be sleeping in hotels for weeks when they're doing these programs. We have leadership. Let's go up. Okay, let's go down. I missed this. I think this thing was a touch screen. Let's go down. You also have handbooks. We've got the RCL handbook. We've also have the SRGBV handbook. This portal, we got the support and the seed funding to start this thing from the GIZ PFP program. Can we please clap hands for the GIZ? That is why on the portal you have a section for RCL content and you've got section for school-related GBV. We are also going to have other partners. NECT is going to come there. They are going to add the content for Ubuntu. IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission in South Africa, is going to come there. They are going to add their content on democracy and elections. moot court, all the programs that Butliko are running in the department. We're going to have all of those things running there for the learners. After they do an RCL orientation, they then get orientated on all the other things. And then you get a certificate. So let's just see how the leadership lesson looks like. This is where you'll be going to do you can see those are the modules for now. Let's go down a bit. The RCL structure. Click on the RCL structure. When you click on the RCL structure, then those are the sections on the left. How the RCL works. When you click, but before that, before you can see, you see at the bottom there, it says log in or register, right? You, as learners, you will have to register. This is not, I don't know what platform do you use online that you don't register. But every learner, every TLO, officials and partners, these 4 categories, okay? They will register on the platform. Officials, partners, and TLOs will register on the platform to get a view, Mr. Mutapu. When you register on this portal as the provincial coordinator of Gauteng RCLs, you will be able to see which of your learners have completed which tasks and from which districts, from which schools, and the gender, and the ages, and the grades. So it will be able to give us the back end. You will be able to call one district, Yakotswan North, and say, hey, your learners are not completing my tasks. So, but before, a learner would have to register, put all these things in. It is also a way to track alumni. Next year or after 2 years when you go to university, as RCLs, you need to go back to your schools and become alumni of these RCLs. So through this platform, we'll be able to speak with you, right? Let's go back to lessons. So this is a section for the RCL structure has got 2 modules now. Let's go back to lessons. There's a tab there for lessons. Under login, on the left. No, yes, there. You click on that one. You go down, and there's also another module on RCL responsibility. The first one is the structure. The second one are the responsibilities across all the office bearers and all of those things. Let's go down. Let's go down. Now I'm just showing you the content for school-related GBV that other partners will add on. And when there's more content that is added, we're going to add them here. This, colleagues, is just a way to try to innovate how we support. I will share a little bit of a story with you, Liko. When we started the contract with GIZ, we had a lot of money under a line item. You know what was the line item? Printing of handbooks. I deliberately made sure that there are no programs here. We must save the environment. No paper. Even if you come to the Agape office, it's just that GIZ recently sponsored us with a printer. But we didn't want a printer because we're a paperless organization. So there was a big budget to print manuals. And I asked the question and said, when we print manuals, we're going to print a limited amount of manuals. It's going to be money to distribute them across the schools. And if these manuals end up in learners that are not responsible, they're going to end up in the dustbin. And if there's a new content that needs to be added, it means we must print another round of manuals. No. Let's take this money that is meant to print. Let's direct it towards development of an online portal that all learners in the country can do it. Now, I'm going to go to my calculator in my closing remarks. Why am I going in my calculator? The country has about 6,200 high schools. This country, South Africa, has about 6,200 high schools, about. Every school has an average of about 45 RCLs. I'm going to take that 6,200 learners multiplied by 45 RCLs across all the schools. It gives me a total of 279,000 learners. So this platform is a way for us to say, we want to reach all the RCLs. Handbooks would not reach all these 270, now I'm sounding like our former president, 279, listen properly, 279,000 learners across the country. So this, in essence, we're just sharing one, there's somewhat a change in attitude and knowledge with the learners that participate in the program. And then going forward, this is not the end. We have online platforms. There's a reason why we invited the Junior Commissioner program in here. I used to work for GIZ. While I was at GIZ, I was supporting the junior commissioner program. We are inviting the junior commissioner program because the junior commissioner programs are there at the station level, at the district or cluster level, at the provincial level, at the national level. They too will also be having the hashtag Asifuni as a program that they will implement. In fact, we're in contact with the office of the Deputy Minister, Mampoli Bishiel, who's the Deputy Minister in SABS. She's going to come on board to assist in leading this program to be spearheaded by the junior commissioners. We'll also be looking at the GEMBEMS, Mr. Rapulan. So we are a firebrand and we are coming very fast. No one can stop us. Success is inevitable with this kind of things that we're doing. Sesibusi, let me call you as I close. Thank you very much to all the partners that are supporting us. We took a leap of faith and made a livelihood out of supporting government. Our parents were scared when some of us resigned from where we were working. But now when they see some of the things that we are doing, helping the country, they are very happy. Thank you very much. Please clap hands for me as I give the mic back to Sesibusi.
Yo, a round of applause, please. So I'm still digesting. And how do you speak of Tatsetse? Lots of energy, but it's a reflection of the passion that he really has in inspiring young people. But if you think that was the best that we saved for you, no, I've saved the best for last. To reflect on the work that we did today, but overall to just give us closing remarks. A representative from the GIZ, we've been hearing today a lot about this GIZ. What is this organization about? And why specifically are they ensuring that they invest in projects like this, ensuring that they invest in young people? And as we've learned from Utsetse, not just in South Africa, but in the SADC region as well, we have Sis Grace Akinyi Alu, who is in our presence today and will wrap up this conversation, but as well as the day for us. Sis Grace, thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon, everyone. I must admit that it is not an easy task to come after the presentations that we've had today. But I will try to represent, I will try to bring in my voice as well. So my name is Grace Alo. I am a representative of the German Development Corporation, GIZ, a program called Partnerships for Prevention of Gender-Based Violence in Southern Africa. South Africa is one of the 5 countries in which the country implements, the project implements, in addition to being present at the SADC level with the SADC Gender Unit. Esteemed guest, I acknowledge the presence of the Office of the Deputy Minister, Ms. Mapetseka Steve-Letsike, from the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, represented by the Deputy Director Mpo. I also acknowledge the presence of representatives from the Department of Basic Education, Honorable Director Liko. Thank you very much. Senior officials of the Department of the Basic Education, Department of Women and Persons with Disabilities, South African Police, Gauteng Department, Mpumalanga Department of Education, development partners who are also perhaps online, school governing bodies, educators, Representative Council of Learners and parents. It is with great pride and appreciation that I stand before you today in this very crucial intergenerational dialogue on prevention of gender-based violence and femicide. What an opportune moment as we commemorate the Human Rights Month globally. We are also looking forward to the International Women's Day celebrations. We join forces here to accelerate action. GIZ PFP in particular remains committed to partnering with key stakeholders to make our schools conducive and free of gender-based violence. I acknowledge and appreciate the never-ending, standing commitment of the Department of Basic Education. You have stood with this initiative through, from the very beginning, unwaveringly, and in support also of the partners that we collaborate with. It is my honor to acknowledge that the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, and as it was, I think, from one of the presenters also mentioned, this affirms the commitment of the South African government in fighting the scourge of gender-based violence. Similarly, and in the spirit of a multi-stakeholder approach in ending the scourge, which our president termed the second pandemic, I acknowledge the presence and participation, very active participation of the South African Police Service. Thank you, Captain, and your team. A key success factor in this initiative, I must say, is the very long-standing collaboration between the GIZ and the Agape Youth Movement, a civil society organization that is youth-led and very, very passionate about their work. I speak from my heart when I say relentless, determined, passionate. We see that today, and even in the speech of the MD, we see how they stretch every single available coin to make sure that they expand the impact of the work they do. We appreciate you, we appreciate your passion, and congratulations once again for going beyond just this flagship, but for the launch of the platform that you have presented here for us today. We hope that this platform is one step further towards institutionalizing this very important intervention at a national level and reaching more than just Mpumalanga and Gauteng provinces where we began. And of course, I look at beautiful young faces here. I had very, very strong convictions, determination, and bravery to speak out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking leadership, because as they say, or as you say, nothing about you without you. Continue to do the good work, doing the good work that you're doing. We do hear you, we see you, we appreciate you. Through your leadership, you are showing us that you're not just the future, you are the present, and your actions today plant seeds for a safer and more equitable tomorrow. Indeed, you are leaders of change, and we are incredibly proud of you. Dear guests, we must remember that today is just somewhere in the middle of the journey we are walking. There is still a lot more work to be done, and we must continue to empower our youth with the knowledge and the tools they need. Educating our young people about their rights and equipping them to recognize the importance of respect, consent, and healthy relationships is fundamental to preventing violence. And I want to reflect briefly on the panel discussion and what I heard from Teacher Tando. This was a testament that we are just halfway through the journey. We need to be able to equip our young people with the knowledge of what their rights are. It is not a matter of liking that one student would go through abuse. It is a matter of, on the one hand, socialization. It is a matter of not having the information. It's not a matter of resources in information, but also resources in feeling safe to be who you are and to stand for who you are and your rights. As I live here today, I still recognize also the need for resource mobilization and the formation of strategic partnerships to ensure the sustainability of our interventions. We know, and we heard it from all different levels, that what is missing is adequate resources to be able to cover the ground that we have. No single individual or organization can achieve this alone. It is only through collaboration across schools, across sectors, across governmental bodies and the civil society that we can secure a lasting change. Let us remain committed to building these partnerships, pooling resources from all sectors of society to tackle gender-based violence and create lasting solutions. Let our resources drive the development agenda and priority of our young people. As we conclude today's event, let us leave here with renewed determination and commitment and a clear sense of purpose. The work is far from over, but together we have the strength, we have the resolve, we have the will to make a difference. Thank you all for your participation and your commitment to this critical cause. Let us continue to move forward, hand in hand, toward a future free from violence. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those insights and just a reflection of the work that is being done here today. Earlier on, we were supposed to bring you a keynote address from a very important dignitary who was set to join us online. I'm happy to announce that Honorable Mapaseka Steve Letsike, who's the Deputy Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, is joining us now on the line. Your audio is very
responsibility took over in the morning as the meetings were led by President and Deputy President. So I must apologize to your participants, to the learners who joined this session, but I thought before this session I could just at least get a glimpse of how your session went, but also to congratulate the Department of Basic Education, the partnership with Agape, as well as our own department, but most importantly, to congratulate the learners that really advancing the work of ending violence in school, as if fully gender-based violence. And this launch, it's a signal to coming to party and actually ensuring that we can create a safe environment for our young people. So I must really congratulate the entire team. I just want to highlight a few things and having had some few outcome of discussions to say that what we are dealing with here, that this initiative is responding to, we are responding to an issue that not only affects us as South Africa, but affects the entire globe. You know, that millions of girls and boys with their diversity experience violence on their way to home, on their way to school, on the school ground, in the classrooms, school-related, gender-based violence also can be physical, psychological, and of course sexual for that matter. And while boys and girls are both affected by these types of violence, we also are notably identifying unequal gender norms, placing girls as much higher risk of experiencing sexual violence for that matter. So these are part of why we are responding, to such initiatives which are providing us with hope and the partnership that we see between government and civil society. And I'm raising this because schools are entry point, to curriculum, to youth development or children's development, but they are also in the part of responding to gender-based violence by an entry point to preventing future cases of sexual and gender-based violence, and part of it we can do it by shifting norms and behaviors around violence. The idea here is to have a safe space to learn, and this initiative that is learner-led brings us closer to that, of ending violence in and around schools for that matter. But I think what is key to this is that how do we identify some of the key types of school-related violence that indicates a potential entry point for change for that matter. But this includes violence perpetrated by teachers and school staff. We cannot ignore that. And that also, whether we speak about what was historically known as corporal punishment, cruel or humiliation forms of psychological punishment, sexual exploitation, harassment and abuse, and other forms of bullying. We cannot accept and tolerate perpetration of violence, neither by teachers, staff members, and neither even by other school or peers for that matter. So that violence that takes place between peers in and around school, that bullying and harassment must come to an end. But also violence in the home and communities that has an impact on schools. So we shouldn't only just focus on what happens on the basis of the perpetration that happens by teachers and school staff or by the learners and their peers for that matter, but the violence that happens in the homes and around our communities have an impact on school. And ultimately, the other area is attacks on schools. This is carried out, and we've seen it predominantly taking place, whether through protests and many other criminal activities. That attacks on school, the infrastructure, attacks on students, attacks on teachers, but also is attacking on education institution. So the learners that are leading this initiative have got a big task, because we are responding to what we call a whole of society responding to issues. So I'm just highlighting this program director to say that you are showing up, you are standing up, you are helping us shift these social norms and behavior change, but also you are helping us invest in a safer environment for all learners and schools free of violence. I think the last 2 points I would like to make about keeping your delegates in this room is to say that as a country, like what our President had said, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, We are a government that works for all. We are a nation that works for all, and to do so, we have to demonstrate what are the factors of success. And I want to bring you closer to 3 factors of success that we need to draw as core elements of this work. How do we influence positive change related to attitude towards gender-based violence, towards teacher practices, towards perceptions of safety and quality of systems that are functional in our institutions of education? And one of it is that how do we design programs that really understand the gender dynamics, the education and violence, in the ability to really deal with the nuances of knowledge in the local context. What is happening in KwaZulu-Natal is different to what is happening in Northern Cape versus what is happening in Eastern Cape and other provinces for that matter. So we must actually know how to localize and speak about the systematic interventions or even responses in the local languages, but also in a manner that people can actually communicate better, so that we understand these multiple drivers of violence in implementing interventions. The other aspect where we have to consider, or what we need to consider, is the strong reporting system. When young people are leaving this initiative, where and who do they report matters? When do they report matters? What do we better understand in the reporting system, where young people can help prevent but also help steer the reporting elements of support? But once issues and cases are reported, what are the referral and structural pathways, particularly for those who may be exposed to victimization, but also those who are supporting the young people or the children or learners for that matter? Are they child sensitive? And there is easily accessible services to support them. Because those are elements that support this initiative. Once actually including in gender-based violence that is learner-led, it's going to emerge. And I think the partners in this room must help make sure that we are able to respond adequately to the needs, in helping in the prevention aspect, but also helping in the responsive aspect, so that we take and create a survivor-centered reporting and response mechanism for that matter. The last point, of course, that I want to make is around safer environment. And part of that safer environment is that let's not perpetuate a cycle of violence. We must analyze and engage with potential perpetrators in a positive and constructive manner. We all know that who violates and who are potential for this violation. So we need to make sure that our young people, our learners, are in a safe environment. And those who interact with them are not necessarily going to expose the young people to this vulnerability. What level of support that helps even the potential perpetrators so that the dead behavior change happen? Also, second, what support to teachers and school management staff around methods of maintaining discipline? How do we support our teachers in helping maintain discipline? Plus, without using violence, without using verbal abuse, grounded in the context of changing attitude. Because we may also perpetuate secondary levels of trauma or triggers for children. But also, how do we facilitate critical self-reflection about gender and use of violence amongst teachers and also amongst learners for that matter? So I really do think it's quite important that we bring about a wholesale shift in culture at school but also at home, because ultimately this is the time that learners and teachers and many other staff members and stakeholders interact and spend time. But we're going to have to invest a little bit much more on working with boys, working with girls to change these perceptions that are of gender and social norms. That means that the learners themselves must be creative. Let's use spaces as clubs, girls' clubs, boys' clubs, to provide important forums that helps us to introduce activities that challenges negative notions of masculinity, femininity, but also helps us to interrogate gender norms, but helps us to build healthier relationships between boys and girls in terms of coexistence. That is possible. What skills do we need to help young people to thrive in their development? What is appropriate and what is also helping us in terms of respectful and allowing us to discuss in a respectful manner in this debate. But also the most important aspect is around inclusive participation, and that we must make sure that the inclusivity, the intersections, are also considered. Young people or learners with disability, learners who are from the LGBTI community, learners who are also coming and dealing with HIV, learners who may have been exposed to violation before, learners who come from different family setups, whether it's child in the household. I would like to, for us, on a learner-led initiative, make sure that we discuss inclusivity, participation, and reduce bullying amongst learners, address stigma and discrimination that is often a child-to-child experience. So I really do think we have an opportunity, and this aspect of work where we can support awareness and where we can success to bring about change in communities will take us a long way. So Program Director, I want to thank you. I want to thank the entire government representatives, civil society representatives, and even the private sector who are here. So the work that has been done by our government, which I celebrate, I was speaking to the managing director about it in terms of this work. The system that helps to empower young people, equip young people, will go a long way. Our department is responsible for women, youth and persons with disability, and we have a clear interest on what happens in the development of a young person. We want young people who are healthy, young people who are happy, young people who are empowered, young people who have the best interest of their own country to thrive. We do not want young people who are not ready to take over and to grow this country and to better the country, but also to care for the nation, care for our families, and care for our environment. So we are saying, pick up to the learners. We say, I see fully in gender-based violence, but we are also saying that we are one in this nation. Let's make sure that South Africa, which is a beautiful country, thrives. And all of us can do about justice to them. So thank you to GIZ also for the support, and to all the partners in helping us ending violence in schools. Let's take lessons, let's grow this movement, and let's make it work. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. A compelling address there that is given by the Honorable Mapaseka Steve Legitse, who is the Deputy Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth, and Persons Living with Disabilities. I think, every time I get an opportunity to hold a mic, I just say a little prayer to say, can God guide me through the event and ensure the best, really, and that the event goes well. And I must say, I'm really proud of the learners who are present today, who have reflected on the challenges that they face on a daily basis. A round of applause to you guys for really representing for really representing your constituencies, your peers, people in your classrooms. A lot of people take it for granted, the positions that you're in. They take for granted the rooms that you occupy with people who are influential. Just the reflections that were shared today were really powerful. And so I can only hope, as a person who was an RCL leader as well, that you can take all of the lessons that you're getting, not only today, but your interactions with other people or in your line of duty as well throughout the year, that you absorb all the information that you get and that it empowers you not only for today, but really boosts you and sets you up for the career that is expecting you later in your adult life. So thank you so much for the opportunity, for listening to me. You've been an absolutely lovely audience. But more so the partners and the stakeholders who are really essential in ensuring that today goes smoothly. The Department of Basic Education, GIZ, Agape Youth Movement. Of course, we've also thanked the Deputy Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, all the other stakeholders as well that we couldn't mention, people who are driven and who are for youth development and education in Africa. I think let's give them a warm round of applause and really thank you guys for everything that you do. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you for listening in today. Thank you for interacting and for being the best audience that I've ever had. And perhaps the most important announcement of the day will be, where is lunch? Where is the juice? Where is, the little snacks that I've been particularly waiting for? So here's a representative from Agape to do that for us. But thank you so much. This is my last time speaking today.
Let's give the MC a round of applause. Woo-hoo. Okay, I'm here to address the most important question. How do we eat? So it's a very simple process. All the learners, because we don't want to waste your time, we've prepared your lunch in packs, so you pick up and go. But please socialize amongst yourself. But I'd like to ask the learners of this particular school, can you allow the learners that are visiting the school to pick up their packs first? And then you guys can get 2 once they are done. And then all the parents, partners, the VIPs, and all the other stakeholders, let's all have lunch upstairs, but let's allow our principals to first settle down and eat, and then we can just dish up. The teachers, the police, all ordinary people of society like myself will just dish up and come back downstairs. Is that okay, colleagues? And with that, before we go, we're all going to come to the front. We're going to take a nice group picture. And we're going to say, Asifuni. So all of us, let's just come and take a group picture. The tall ones at the back. The short ones in the front. Come. We're going to take a family photo. Come. Can you move up to this level? At least be up to this level. Short ones, unfortunately, at the front, talls at the back. And then we're going to say hashtag Asifuni. Let's go, colleagues.
Can you make it a special arrangement for Pumalanga? Can't you allow us to also have?
Yeah, no problem. All right, I'll announce that. Can we gather in? Don't be shy. All of us who are part of the movement now. Can the photographers come? The camera people. Can we move? The people there, don't move too far away. Come closer. And then you can stand in like this. You can, okay. Hello, listen to me.
And learners, and the learners, the RCL members who are part of the SGB. take it up with the SGB, because sometimes we can't even take it to the principal, as they're also a part of the problem.
In her keynote address, Dr. Geya, Deputy Director General, highlighted the pivotal role of education in shaping future leaders. She called upon learners to embrace innovation and adaptability as they navigate an increasingly complex world.
The issue of gender-based violence.
All right, are you ready? There's still a gap there. You need to cramp in, guys. You need to close. They can't see you on the lens. I said you must, the ones on this side, you must stand like